I stayed away from saltwater tanks for most of my life, because I always thought they were too complicated. That was until I saw a 50-liter tank with the clownfish, live rock, a few soft corals, a small pump, a heater, and a T8 freshwater fixture. That was it. I tried to emulate this setup with success, and I even managed to keep it without a skimmer for the first few years. But the thing I'm most proud of was that I managed to refrain from getting more fish beyond the 2 clowns for a long time. Fast forward 13 years, and I have now my first sump. I always saw sumps as a gateway to complicate the setup. They enable you to add more equipment. I still try to keep it simple and avoid the traps we set to ourselves that lead into trouble. I am in this for the long run. I try to carefully pick my own fights, and I want to avoid creating situations that increase the potential for failure. A mixed reef with this many anemones is challenging enough. No acros in this tank, the only SPS are robust species such as Stylophorus, Montiporus, and Psammocorus. So, without further ado, let's get into how this system works. The overflow has 2 drains following the Herbie method, a return that splits into 2 outputs, and 1 extra pipe that was supposed to bring the cables from the 3 fixtures and 2 pumps down to the cabinet. It turned out to be too thin for this purpose, unfortunately. The gate valve on the main drain enables me to adjust the flow down so that the water level is around the top of the emergency drain, keeping the tank silent. I like the size of this thing. It makes me feel like I am operating the hatch of a submarine. The height of the drain pipes were adjusted so that they are just below the water level in the skimmer section. The skimmer is a WA 180 that I got for the bargain price of €200. It's rated for tanks up to 1150 liters. The tank is 143 by 90 by 60 centimeters and the sump is 100 by 45 by 40. So I think it's adequate given that I don't plan to have a heavy bioload. In the future, I would like to get an automatic neck cleaner and let the skimmate flow out of the collection cup into a 7-liter jug. There's a grounding probe here too, and it's doing its job because there's some stray electricity in the water without it. Here's an oxidator, and it supposedly works a bit like an ozone unit. I like the fact that it doesn't use any electricity. I am currently testing how far can I dial it in regarding the concentration of peroxide and the number of catalysts. Anemones are among the more sensitive animals in what concerns oxidators. Here's the return pump chamber. This is a Jabao DCP 10000. I can't run it at 100% because the overflow is too narrow and the water level in the tank would be too high. The return pump also provides flow to the UV unit. The output of the UV feeds the refugium. This piece of acrate separates the algae area from the anemone area. Right now I only have a few strands of chaeto. There are many anemones in the tank, and as they multiply, I need a place to put the wanderers before I find new homes for them. The flow from the UV is not enough for the anemones, so I added a small pump. I plan to make an adjustment to the plumbing so that the return pump can also do that. I keep a couple of bags of Purigen and a basket with carbon in the sump. I change the carbon every couple of weeks, and I regenerate the Purigen a couple of times per year with bleach. The 2 heaters are in the refugium. I wanted to make sure they are never out of water. There's a 100-liter container behind the sump that holds kalkwasser. It's enough for 16 days. The dozer pumps 5 liters of calc saturated solution every night. I manually dose Red Sea colors weekly and Red Sea energy every day. In the future, I will probably automate these tasks. I haven't performed a water change yet, but it's only been over a month since I set up the tank. In a few months, I will perform an ICP test, and I will keep a close eye on the tank reaction. This tank has more than double the water volume of the previous one, and I am still unfamiliar with how it will balance itself, namely in what concerns nitrates and phosphates. Right now, I am just watching and letting it do its own thing. I will be lightly siphoning the sand regularly, just to prevent large accumulations of detritus in the long term. I am still on the fence about the use of filter socks. It's a huge chore to have to clean them every other day, and they also catch uneaten food, which is a downside for me. For now, I'd rather clean the sump every few weeks.